Chain Echoes was almost an immediate classic, and I would put this as far as indie RPGs. I put it up there and around Crosscode, Darkest Dungeon, just phenomenal, like 10 out of 10. Super dang like spiritual follow up to Final Fantasy VI. Now the graphics and like the moving around the world feels very Chrono Triggery like, but the as far as the story and the gameplay, it's much more Final Fantasy VI. You know, you have a large group of people. There's a lot of political type stories, which is more like Final Fantasy Tactics. This game is pulling after a lot of old school, you know, Super Nintendo and then like PlayStation RPGs. And so it's pulling these things, it's using them as sort of resources or templates, but it's really its own thing, which is so freaking great about this. And I hate games that just kind of pay homage, but they don't have anything else for them. This, I've never been this excited for an RPG story in several years, and it really goes to show you that as you want to continuously know what happens in this game, and it's like just freaking amazing, you're like, well, modern day Final Fantasy doesn't have this. Modern day Final Fantasy has a bunch of presentation and flashiness, and then it's like, but what's there is just so vapid and just empty. And this game has an amazing cast of characters, and they all have cool backstories. And what I've really liked is this: you feel like it's like stepping back 30 years. That's the best way I can feel it. Takes you back to your Super Nintendo days, and just is an amazing game from a gameplay standpoint. I played it on hard mode, and so I actually got challenged, and I really liked it. Actually, feel like I need to do these upgrades, because a lot of these games are so damn easy these days. Games like Dragon Warrior 11, just so damn easy. It's like, you know, who's this for? It's for like the littlest little kid. I don't know. But no, this game put out quite a bit of challenge, at least on hard mode, and you can kind of turn things on and off. There's like 3 different little options to, you know, increase the enemy's health and stuff like that, and so you could basically, you know, make it the way you want it to be. There is a mechanic in here, what's kind of like the overdrive mechanic, and you got this meter, and so you're starting off and you're underperforming, but then you cast a bunch of spells and stuff, and then you'll get over into this overdrive, and this is this ideal place to be. Now, if you're doing too much stuff, you'll go and overheat, and so you'll have to use abilities to drop this overheat gauge back down. Now, the first thing you're going to think about is, as you're doing this, is like, wait a minute. It's like, I want to attack, but I'm in overheat, so I really need to do this other thing, and it'd be like this side buff. It's like, well, I mean, I need to do this to drop down my my freaking gauge, but I really don't want to. And so you'll have to learn to design and plan out several moves ahead, so that you're not putting yourself into a corner and having to do things that are essentially wasting turns. And so it requires a little bit of thought, so you want to think a couple moves ahead, and your overdrive gauge, it's constantly there. And you know, if you're taking advantage of it, you can almost continuously use special skills. But if you're in your overheat, or if you're, you know, in the yellow part before it, you're kind of, you know, you could rapidly run out of damn mana. And so it's one of those things that you'll want to spec your team and your character's abilities around it to give the most diversity, so you're not having to fight the overdrive. And once you've got it set up right, you don't have to fight it. If you're planning ahead, you don't have to fight it. If you're only thinking for each move for each character, you will round yourself into trouble. And as you constantly fight with the enemies who would try to put you into that overheat thing, you've got to constantly balance this out. And so if you're doing this right, once you get that vibe on, man, it's like addictive as hell. And you're constantly using buffs and debuffs, and it's going to help you defeat these enemies, at least on hard mode. If you don't sit there and you buff up and debuff them, you're probably going to get wrecked. And so I spent quite a bit of time specking my dudes out, and so you really fall into this kind of party customization, because you're customizing their skills and their weapons. There is one pretty annoying system that, as of right this second, has been fixed. They're supposed to patch it out, but you can like put these like almost like you could socket your gear in and put these like little crystals in there. This is a convoluted system. It's freaking nuts. It's bullshit, honestly. And you're constantly confused about what the hell it is. And then I'm sitting there like 80 or 90 hours in before I really grasped what the hell was going on. And so, you know, I made sure that my last gear I was putting in the best thing I could do. It's also got a lot of randomization to it. But other than that, And other than the fact that, you know, in your typical John Normus Final Fantasy type game, you might spend 30 minutes or an hour setting your team up to do something, because that's just simply when you're sitting, you're moving around your espers and all this stuff. It's just what happens in all of your gear. But that aside, that's a part of it, and you just kind of fall in love with it. And with the game that constantly presses you for difficulty, and a game that constantly gives you, you know, the story bits that you're really into, the freaking intrigue and all that good stuff, it keeps you going and keeps you want to play. And it's one of those games where when I quit playing it, I still kept thinking about it. When I went to sleep, I dreamed about it. And so this is an easy and overwhelmingly recommend. It came out late December 2022, but I'm going to consider it personally. It's probably going to be my RPG, or at least indie game of the year. This year Baldur's Gate 3 comes out, so we'll have to see. But this is a phenomenal game. Absolutely amazing. Top-end soundtrack. Great graphics. Designed by one damn person. And it really goes to show you how far just one person with a vision can take one thing. And this is an amazing game. Out on Game Pass. At least it launched on Game Pass, which is another great thing. And if you're an RPG fan, this is definitely something you want to play. Maybe play it on normal if you just want to bust through and read the story. But it's an outstanding game. 10 out of 10. Loved it. Put, I want to say, almost 80 something hours in it. Freaking great.